Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to the live lecture for week 2 of Design Foundations. Today I wanted to review the proportions of ratios in clothing to help you all make sure that you can understand that concept. It really is one of the toughest ones to get your mind wrapped around, as well as it's really a hard one to kind of explain, but I hope today I have some images that will help you in that. I am hoping or assuming you can follow the page here. It's a green screen saying Understanding Proportion Ratios in Clothing. All right. What ratio would this be? In here we have, let's see, pointer. Okay. From the shoulder to her waist, the top, in comparison to the top to the length of the pant. This ratio would be considered a 1-to-2 ratio. It's approximately 1 shirt length to 2 pant lengths. If you doubled the length of the shirt, it would almost equal what the pant is. So, and this is very hard to see. I had this as a separate recording, but when I brought it in here, it did not move everything separately. I'll try and repost this section of this video to do so. But the golden mean, that was covered a little bit in the slideshow you could watch before, and it's a relationship, a proportional relationship that has been proven over time mathematically by the Greeks, as well as it's seen in nature repeatedly. It's actually how nature is shown, and we find that as human beings, when we look at things aesthetically pleasing, it makes sense in our brains as to the proportion. And so how this relates here to this garment is that this top section to the pants is equal to what the pants are to the entire whole garment from the shoulders to the hemline. These little boxes are kind of hidden, but if I were able to move this green box to fit over a section of this lighter box representing the length of the leg, it would be the same proportion as this one that represents the pant leg is to the larger box here that takes it from the shoulder to the hemline. That's that ratio of it. Now, the 1-to-2 sections, it's not a perfect exact double this one length, but it's approximate, it's close enough. And so when in clothing we talk about that ratio, we're talking about 1 length representative to 2 lengths of this. We could also state it in 2-to-3, meaning if I broke this up in half and considered that 2 lengths, it would be equal to almost 2 of the 3 lengths that this would be broken up into. That's assuming I break these up into equal sections. I could even break it up into 8 equal sections, assigning 3 of those 8 to the top and assigning 5 of those 8 to the bottom. Typically, when we talk about something very short, we'll go to the 1-to-2 ratios. Midway to the body, we'll talk about 2-to-3, and then something that might go from shoulder all the way down to full length. Then we might get into the 3-to-5 being 8 sections. Here's another example. This one, though, is considered a 2-to-1. We are discounting the belt that we see in this section of her, but the gray sweater is visually covering 2 parts of her body compared to the 1 part that is visually seen of the skirt down here. Yes, we see a little bit of the skirt between the center front of the sweater, but we're looking at the proportional value associated to the length of the sweater to the length of what is seen of the skirt underneath. This would be in reverse, being 2-to-1. Here again, is it broken up into some rectangles. The bottom section compared to the top section is the same proportionality as the top section compared to the entire whole of the garment. Okay, that pretty much took us through this explanation. I hope that helps, but if you do have any other questions, please email me about that, because I do want you to be able to kind of grasp this concept. It's a tough one, but it's one of those where you probably have looked at something on you in the mirror and thought, something just doesn't look right. And if you then pay attention to the proportions of it on your body, you'll begin to see that the proportional value, or that golden mean, is probably not in alignment for you. Everybody is going to have a different measurable amount, meaning increments of inches, because it's specific to the proportion of your body. If you're 5'6", you're not going to have, you will not be able to wear the same length jacket as somebody who is 5'10". The proportion scale won't be the same, but the golden mean, or that ratio, can still apply. But measurement-wise, it won't be the same length jacket or skirt. In week 3, you go over body types, and when we do that, there will be some links there that show some great examples of kind of some proportionality, but it's also taking into account different body types as far as visually, the visual weight of other parts of the body as they come into play with it all. All right, now I want to take us into the color section for our review today. I know this may say chapter 6. It's chapter 7 in your book. It's just my information here was taken from a different textbook that whose chapter is that. Excuse me just a moment. I need to look something up. Okay. Give me just a moment. Okay. All right. I hope that we resumed where we left off today. We are on chapter 7 in your textbook. This one is about color. And in this, you want to be able to understand the dimension of color, the different type of color theories out there, and understanding the psychological effects of color, the physical effects of color in fashion, the emotional effects of color. They're very closely tied with our psychological effects, the application of color in apparel, and a little bit of color as the design element. All right. One thing to always consider with clothing is that the texture of what the garment's made of is going to affect its color. As far as if it's a smooth silk, satin, it may shine. The color is going to look more intense and bright, whereas something like a nice woolly sweater or something will actually have a more dull look to it, absorbing more of the light weights. All right. The name of a color in its primary hue is its main thing. Nothing's been added to it to lighten it or darken it or whatever. It's in its truest hue. Usually it's most intense for that color, such as red, yellow, green, blue. And the Pantone company provides a standard matching system for colors. Every color is assigned a specific numerical serial number, basically, and it's used quite a bit in the industry because everyone will see color differently via our eyes. But then today we use computers to communicate So anytime if you're trying to work with a factory to dye fabric, what you may be seeing on your screen, what they see on their screen, the monitors may not be the exact same setup, so the colors won't look the same. And then even the computer interpreting a color to a printer, because not all printers may be provided with the variation of all the different pixels available, may not print the color in exactly what you in mind have. So with the Pantone matching system, if you have one of these booklets, and they're not cheap, but if you have one and can select the color you see right there as the color you want, then you would always assign that numerical serial number to it as you move information to manufacturing and factories for what you need. That's the same for graphics in print, copy, photography, layouts, magazines, dyes, having stuff colored for paint, for cars, everything. They all go back to this kind of matching system, and it's the same serial numbers for everybody. It's a great source. Pantone also, if you look online to their website, they provide color trend or color forecasting information each season, so that helps you know what's coming up to expect to see in fabric choices, in clothing choices. All right, value. That's the relative lightness or darkness of a color. That is achieved by either lightening the color by adding some white or darkening it by adding some black. Neutrals. Black, white, and gray are actually the true neutrals. They really have no hue. But in clothing or in fashion, many times we will assign the term neutral to some of the khakis and browns out there, grays, creams, off-whites, things like that. All right, intensity of a color is actually how bright it is. You can tone down a color by actually adding its complement, the color opposite it on the color wheel. All right, our color wheel is usually divided into two halves. One are more warm colors, the others are more cool colors, and it has to do with kind of the undertones that are in them. Excuse me. The warm colors tend to be red, orange, and yellow, and the cooler colors are your greens, blues, and violets. All right, primary colors cannot be mixed. They come out as that color. Excuse me just a moment. I'm going to see if I can take these emails. I see somebody here is having a little difficulty trying to log on. Let me see if I can continue this as I pull up the email. Trying to update. All right, secondary colors are created by combining two primary colors. There are three primary colors on the Prang color system, meaning that that is the way we usually will mix paint. There's other color systems out there that use light to mix colors. That's for video monitors, TV, movies, and things like that. It does come into play for fashion designers, though, when you go to display your garments, like on a runway. They're going to be lit up under those lights, and colors can change because of that. But when it comes to mixing dyes and mixing paint, which is what you are going to practice with your projects, the Prang color system comes into play, or the subtractive color theory. So you start with three primary colors: red, yellow, blue. The secondary colors are green, purple, and orange. Those are mixed by two of the primary colors. Red and yellow make orange, yellow and green, blue make green, and red and blue make violet or purple. And secondary colors only have one name to them also. Tertiary colors, also known as the intermediate colors, will always have a hyphenated name to them, and it will consist of one primary and one secondary, like a red-orange or a yellow-orange or a green-blue, or a blue-green. Sorry, I'm trying to get this in. Okay, I see she's trying to log in again. Okay, here we go. Here's the examples of those color theories I was talking about. The subtractive color theory explains the mixing of dyes and pigments that creates that range of colors. You mix all of them together and you do come up with a black. Whereas when you're dealing with additive color theory, this is how the eye interprets mixing of light, and it has to do with light waves. White is actually, if you've ever been told this before, is a culmination of all the colors together. But that's a different color theory than the subtractive one, which is what we did in art class when we were younger. The wavelengths, green and red together make yellow. Green and blue make cyan, and your blue and red actually make a magenta. We will focus on the subtractive color theory. And the Prang system is where it is put out into a wheel of 12 major color sections. You've got your 3 primary, oh, there they are, 3 primary, 3 secondary, and 6 intermediate or tertiary colors. Now, the Munsell color tree is a little bit harder to kind of grasp again. It has the 12 colors around, actually maybe not even all 12, and then there's stair-step gradients as they go down and up along a value scale of white to black. I'm just going to ask you to get familiar with and be able to identify colors on the Prang system. Colors affect the nervous and hormonal systems in our bodies, and advertisers, designers, decorators, and consumers use this. As consumers, we may not always realize it, but as designers or advertisers, you're going to want to understand it. With our psychological effects, red has a very intense kind of reaction within us. Our blood pressure will actually raise, and it will cause some excitement. Reds and oranges actually even make us salivate more. When we begin to salivate, we begin to recognize we have an appetite. That's why fast food restaurants use so much yellow, red, and orange in them. You stop and think about, what is McDonald's decorated with? What's Burger King decorated with? What's Taco Bell decorated with? They all have that kind of color scheme. And then this other picture here, the young woman in the pale blue suit, she exudes a sense of confidentiality, calm, efficient, clean, not too wild scale there, so that as a lawyer or a banker or somebody that you need to entrust with some sensitive information, you're more ready to. Now some of the physical effects of color, this is both visual and even when we are wearing them, simultaneous contrast. Complementary hues brighten each other. An intense hue gives the effect of its complement to a nearby dull or neutral color. And you'll see an example of this in a minute. Hues that are closely related but not adjacent tend to repel each other. And placing colors that are adjacent on the color wheel next to each other emphasizes their similarities. Let's see how does that come into play. All right, here are the same hue against different backgrounds may appear to be a different color. This is the same color of a red-orange, but depending on the color around it, it's going to have a different effect of how we see it. This one's a good one. All of these, reds, oranges, and spread and merge. Greens, blues, and blacks separate and delineate. Okay, shapes with black outlines are very sharp and distinct, and they actually appear larger. All of these circles on this page are the same color. as the set next to them. These, though, with the white outline, tend to recede into the background. They all look much softer. Over here, the same set outlined in black seem to come towards you more. They're more intense looking. They tend to see brighter. Okay. An after image. You maybe have played with this optical illusion before. After looking at a bright area for a few seconds, concentrate on that red square. We'll give it a few seconds here. Okay. Now, one blink and then concentrate on this other gray square. And what color do you see start to emerge? I'm expecting that you would probably begin to see a green square. All right. Pointillism. The eye will mix the colors of dots that are placed very close together to create the perception of a hue that may not be present at all. Color and apparent size. Lighter values, bright intensities, and warm colors make areas they cover appear larger. Dark colors will tend to shrink the appearance of areas they cover. Keep that in mind when you think of dressing different body types. Here's an example. In this little dress, the lighter colored top area makes the bust appear larger, whereas as the colors begin to get darker down the length of the dress, the skirt appears narrower. Color and its apparent motion. Lighter values and warm colors appear to advance, sort of come out towards you. That's another reason why they look larger. They're closer to you, it seems. Dark and cool colors appear to recede. They tend to fall to the background. That's why they tend to look smaller, is because they look further away. All right. Here's some examples of those light and bright colors appear to advance. Here against the darker gray of her dress, the belt stands out. On his whole shirt here, that orange brighter color or intenser color seems to stand out and look probably larger than it actually is. Same thing on the stripes and sections of this dress. The white ones tend to look larger than the black ones. Okay. By contrasting your values, it will affect the intensities of colors. Hues look darker against a lighter background and lighter against a darker background. Right, remember that dull hues make intense ones appear brighter, and brighter hues make dull ones appear duller. Large areas that are covered with a very high intensity color begin to tire the eyes out for the viewer. And hues that are very similar of value seem to merge together. All right, color, temperature, and moisture. Physical effect with emotional and psychological components. Dark colors absorb more heat than light ones. Cool colors and dull values seem humid. In warm colors, light values and bright intensities seem drier. And that's maybe not always the case, but when we dress in the warm temperatures of summer, we tend to gravitate towards using those lighter values and brighter intensities. We feel or as if we are drier. All right. emotional effects on color. This, some of it is just innate, but a lot of it has to do with our culture and what we've been brought up to assign to a certain color. That is within your culture. The emotional effects of warm and cool colors, color moods, colors and genders, color age and sophistication, and color and the seasons. Color conveys many meanings through natural associations and psychological symbolism. There we go. Black always suggests a sense of sophistication, sometimes mystery, and sometimes authority. A red suit suggests authority as well, but a fieriness, a spontaneousness about someone. In China, red is a symbol for good luck. I believe I've also been told it's a color for mourning as well. Bright and warm colors will evoke happiness, create passion, and they're very stimulating. Dull colors suggest unhappiness or depression. Cool colors have a calming effect, and dark, dull colors are relaxing. In America, in our Western civilization, warm, lighter colors seem soft or feminine, and cool, dark, and bright colors seem more masculine. Pink is definitely perceived as feminine, and blue is perceived as masculine. Age perception also has a lot to do with the colors. Bright, warm, primary colors suggest youth, happiness, and vitality, whereas your black and darker values suggest experience and sophistication. All right, we associate certain colors to the seasons. During the spring, more pastel colors and brighter hues suggest that of spring and summer, and for fall and winter, duller shades or less intense hues. And then shades of warm colors, browns, and earth tones tend to suggest autumn, and the lighter blues and very bright whites seem to suggest winter. All right, applying color in apparel. Color schemes, those are those relationships that work across that color wheel, one color to another. Certain ones work very well together. They complement each other. They help make certain things more intense. They bring out one part to seem larger than another, which may be the perfect play for fixing some figure challenges or something. And personal coloring has a lot to do with what looks good on certain people. You can have some great colors in your line of clothing, but the way somebody is colored as an individual will really be able to determine if that's going to be a piece that's going to work for them. Colors for special occasions and events also come into play with what's expected and the effects of the color on the figure. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay. Here is some great examples of our different color schemes. A monochromatic color scheme is that line of values in one hue, from light to dark or dark to light, whichever variations of it you want to use. Think of this. Chrome is the term for one color or for color. Mono would be one color. Analogous, alongside each other is how I always try to remember this. It's going to be 3, maybe even up to 4 different colors right next door to each other on the color wheel. Complementary, meaning that they are directly across from each other on the color wheel. Adjacent complementary means that you could take the complementary color and then one color to the left or to the right of one of those colors. It could have also been the reverse here. You could have had this red oranges to the green, and then it could go green yellows or green blues as the adjacent. All right, a split complementary. That is where you go to the complementary color, but you skip it and go to the adjacent ones right next to each other. It sort of forms a Y. A double complementary would be two on either side of the, opposite sides of the color wheel. A double split complementary is you take the complement and then the adjacent ones to the left and right of each one of those. Sort of creates a rectangle. A tetrad is more of a square. You skip two colors in between every one that you put into the relationship. And a triadic would be an equally based triangle. Colors widely separated but not complementary. They actually seem to appear as if they clash, and we would call that discordant. The main ones I'd like for you to focus on for this class, be able to identify a monochromatic, analogous, complementary, and the split complementary is another good one. All right. Here are some examples of our different color schemes. This is a monochromatic. It's in the brown section, and we've got a couple different shades of it. Analogous has the red, orange, and yellow. Our complementary set here is orange and blue. And the triadic is that version of three of them, and we've got our primary yellow, red, and blue. This one's considered discordant because directly opposite the yellow is not purple on the color wheel. Color forecasting tends to follow a typical fashion cycle. Many of the colors that you see in interior design and decor items follow along the same lines as fashion. Many times fashion is not just related to clothing, it's everything around us that we surround ourselves with, our entire environment. Forecasting companies research and evaluate economic and social changes happening, fashion in different parts of the world, trends in the entertainment business, and other factors. And they put that all together and decide pretty much what they're going to say is the trend of color. And usually whatever they dictate as the trend is what the manufacturers are going to follow. Trends can be seen in Women's Wear Daily and other websites. Pantone Color Matching Systems is another one you can take a look at. All right, personal coloring and clothing design. Generally, people with cool coloring are attractive in cool colors. People with warm coloring or undertones look best in warm colors. There are certain individuals, though, that have little contrast in their personal colors that can look drab in very bright intensities. And people with strong contrast in personal coloration can wear bright intensities and strong contrast. The violet sweater and cool red scarf actually complements this woman's cool bluish colored hair and blue-pink skin tone. It makes her skin glow and her hair appear shiny. For special occasions, in our Western societies, we usually make wedding dresses in white, cream, or ecru, as well as christening dresses in white. White has the association of innocence. And black or dark, low-intensity colors are used for funerals. And traditionally, job interview suits tend to be in black, navy, or dark gray, mainly because those add that touch of conservatism and authority, and people want to appear like that in their jobs. And the effective color on the figure. Warm, bright, and light colors will make the figure look larger. Cool, dark, and dull colors make the figure appear smaller. When you use the same color all the way through, it doesn't have to be the exact same shade. You can still have a monochromatic look for some diversity and drama, but yet if you stay within that same color, it will have a slimming effect to the entire figure. And if you contrast the top and the bottom, it will appear to cut the height and actually have a broadening effect on the body. A vertical area of a cool color down the center of the body has a slenderizing effect. Horizontal panels of contrasting colors such as a belt or a yoke have a widening effect. Look at that picture of the gray dress with the orange belt. A bright color worn near the face draws the eye vertically and creates a slenderizing effect. In fact, as you do the color analysis in one of the topics this week, let's say you find out what you have as your favorite color, one that you love may not be the one that looks the best on you. Well, I wouldn't say go get rid of it in your wardrobe, but look at ways you can put the color that's most complementary to you nearest your face, and then keep the other color that you love in other garments that you can wear on the body further away from the face. Okay. Remember that I had mentioned that the type of material or the texture of a material has an effect on the reflection of the wavelength. There are they affect the intensity, the lightness, or the darkness of the color. This is all really a summary. The two different color theories we have relate to pigments. Primary colors cannot be communicated by combining other colors. Secondary colors are created by combining two primary colors. Tertiary colors are a primary hue combined with a neighboring secondary hue. All right. Color affects the nervous and hormonal systems. Red increases blood pressure, pulse, respiration, and body temperature. Blue will lower blood pressure, pulse, and respiration. We also have on My Course Connection another link for the emotional association of colors, and it goes through almost all 12 colors in the color wheel with the things we associate to each one. And then we talked about the physical effects of color depending on the hue, value, and intensity. It affects how we view the size and areas of clothing that cover certain parts of the body. Again, the mood that colors have can affect how we perceive the person wearing them. And when, as a designer, you always need to consider the psychological, physical, and emotional effects of color, the appropriateness of colors for different customers, events, seasons, climates, and fashion color trends. All right. The rest of this actually goes through some of the terms throughout the chapter. You have a terms list listed at the top of week 2, just called Terms of Week 2. So aside from actual names of garment styles and details on garments, that list holds all the terms that you are required to know for your quiz this week associated to color. But again, here are some of these. This slideshow is also on My Course Connection. It is in the color section. It's called Chapter 7. When you open it, it will say Chapter 6. Again, I said that was because it was taken from a textbook that the color section was 6. Your textbook, it is Chapter 7. Unfortunately, your textbook, the color chapter, is not printed in color. It was one of our things we had to accept when we decided to go with that textbook. Okay. Well, hopefully that will help you with the idea of color. This morning I posted the video on how to conduct a color analysis for yourself and or for other people. I'd suggested maybe get together a few groups if you've got some friends or family that would like to let you experiment on them. The more you do it, the more comfortable you will get with that. It's a great thing to understand and see and recognize for people, because when we purchase clothing in things that look best for us, then or look best on us, then we will get the most out of our money invested in that piece, as well as it feels good when people compliment you on looking good that day. And you'll tend to notice you get those compliments the most when you're wearing the best colors for you. There is a link on there for you to include a little summary of what you kind of learned through the activity of doing a personal color analysis. Please go ahead and add something there. You don't have to, but I would appreciate some pictures so that I can see, that you did it. Like I said, get some friends together, family, and make it something fun. Those that you know the best will give you the most honest feedback. And if you get a couple different people's eyes seeing it, and if they all agree, then you'll feel more confident that that is the way to go. Last thing actually, before I wrap this up, I wanted to be sure you all were understanding what the wikis are on the page. That is a major part of your grade because it's a way that you can show me through imagery that you are understanding the concepts in the weeks. I think week 1, each of you have a few in there, but not complete. So I'd like for you to take time to make sure you have those completed. I will give you until the end of week 3 to make sure that they're all up and running. This is something we do on ground. Not necessarily, well, I've been transitioning over to the digital side now that we've gone with the iPads, but prior to having iPads, we tore pictures out of magazines. You can find pictures in magazines, or you can find them online now to represent what it is you're looking at for like the principles or elements of design. Find something, I think you all got the element of design. The principles, I didn't think that there was much in there, as well as week 2, the design styles and garments, the names of them. Make sure you have those for the collars, necklines, shirts, dresses, pants, shorts, coats, jackets, sweaters, and vests, hats and belts. I think that might be all of them, but please refer back to your sheet of the requirements. I think the whole list was on the week 1. It's called the notebook requirements, and that tells you which sections you need. You need at least 3 pictures and identify those pictures. Please, if you have any questions about any of that, you can email me or you can call me. I think I had my cell number also on that class expectations list to be able to contact me. That way, if you're not able to call while I have office hours here at the school, I will accept calls up until about 9:30. After that, I still will be checking emails, and if I can, I'll try and get back to you that night via email at the very least. But good luck with everything. I hope next week we cover the body figure types, wardrobe planning, and there was one more. Styling, something like that. I don't know. The week will be open to you very shortly, possibly by tomorrow, so that you can get a look at that. I don't think that it is quite as intense as week 1 and 2, so I hope you can take a deep breath and accept that. Just please stay in touch. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me or call me. You all have a great weekend. Thank you.